and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic, let's see. Today's topic is existential choices, meaning choices that we make that actually impact the quality of our existence. Of our lives on a fundamental level. So it should be a lively and fun conversation. Good morning, Rosalind. Great to have you here with us this morning. Welcome, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us for Existential Choices. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, and creating this brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub those palms together. Feel the friction and the pressure and the temperature. And when you stop rubbing them together, feel all that tickling and tingling, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So it's great to be here with you, and existential choices is our topic for today. So when we put our attention on something, that's where our energy goes, right? So if I am spending my attention worrying, what happens? What happens with ability to be present? If I'm engaged in worrying, then I'm preoccupied, right? I'm not present. I'm not present in my relationships. If I'm worrying about something, I'm not present to the experience that I'm in that moment. If I'm in some kind of performance and I'm busy worrying, I'm not enjoying the performance. I'm not enjoying the company of the people that I'm with. If I'm preoccupied, I'm spending a lot of time and energy worrying about something that I could be focusing on being where I am. And the thing about worrying is that most often, I'm leaving the possibility for an exception, although I'm not thinking of one in the moment, but most often, worry does not produce anything productive. It creates a set of biological chemicals that are stressful. It takes our attention away from whatever is present, and so this whole dynamic of preoccupation and worry takes us out of the stream of life. And so the thing is that the behavior of worry is a habit. It's a pattern. And as such, we have the opportunity to intervene. Good morning, Isabel. Welcome. Great to have you here with us this morning. We are talking about existential choices that impact the quality of our existence, the quality of our lives. And if you guys are writing comments and I'm not responding, just know what you need to do is go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page or YouTube channel and put your comments there, and then I should be able to see them. If you're on my page, I won't see your comments, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. So sorry about that. Anyway, existential choices. So when we worry is not something that is a necessity. It's a pattern. It's a habit. And many of us have the idea that if I worry about something, that Isabel says it's a program. Exactly, it's a program. So many people believe that if I worry about something, then if something goes wrong, I'll be able to address it, or I'll be better prepared for any disappointment that might come along with it, or it'll make me think of options that I didn't necessarily think of before. The thing is, you can think of those options without worrying, from a creative and generative place, instead of this place of stress and negativity. Rosalind says, a scorekeeper, they're looking for technical violations and whether a goal is valid or not. Instead, we can watch the game with less judgment. Okay, so people who are worrying are looking for violations in the game, perhaps. That may be they're anticipating those violations in the game, maybe. I think worry actually inhibits our ability to observe accurately too. So to your point of watching the game with less judgment, maybe then we get to see things that we wouldn't have seen if we were looking for the infringements or the violations, so to speak. It's a possibility. But let's go back, and I'm using worry as an example. It's just one of many, many, many examples. But the thing is that if you have a predisposition to anxiety, it was interesting. I was working with someone who has a lot of issues with anxiety, and it was so interesting that they said at one point, I was asking them, well, what do you feel right now? And they said, well, I'm not aware of what I'm feeling, so I'll just assume I'm anxious. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And what was awesome is, in that person's mind, they had a little voice that said, now that's just silly, which was kind of great, to recognize that we have these habitual patterns. But the thing is that if we assume we're anxious, and this kind of goes along with worry also, right? If we assume we're anxious, how is that impacting our ability to be present to whatever's happening in life? How does it impact our ability to relate to others? Good morning, Gia. So good to have you here with us. Welcome. I know it's evening where you are, but thank you for saying good morning. That's very sweet. Anyway, we're talking about existential choices. And the thing is, we get into these patterns and we don't slow things down enough to recognize that we actually had a choice, or that we have other choices. So I think I talked to you about this already. I have this wonderful client that has had issues around anxiety for a long time. You're welcome, Gia. For a long time. And, what we were looking at was dissecting the pattern of anxiety and how that occurred. And what was really interesting is that it seemed like it was automatic. It seemed like here was a thing that happened, and then automatically there was anxiety. I don't know that they clean a lot, Rosalind. That's an interesting question. A lot of people do clean to be able to feel like they're in control. That's a very interesting thing. When cleaning is not necessarily the healthiest thing sometimes, right? If that's why we're motivated to do it. Although it's nice to have a clean place, but you can take it overboard in a big way, right? Like I remember being at dinner at someone's house and they took my dishes. I mean, I put my fork down for a minute. They went to take my dishes and clean the dishes away before I was finished the meal. It's like cleaning can be a compulsion. But anyway, what we're looking at is, so this anxiety response seemed like it was automatic. But what we did was we slowed things down. We broke down the pattern and actually the mechanism of the pattern, what happened. So what happened was the person had a trigger or an input. As they were slowing it down, the way they described it is there was this big blank space. And it was bright, bright white light, and they couldn't see anything in it. And then the conversation started of, this is going to be a disaster. And then it went on from there and gained momentum. But the key was what's going on in that white light blank space. So we slowed it down even more. And it turned out that what was going on in that white light blank space was something that they described as a kaleidoscope of all these different choices moving very, 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 very quickly. And the good choices, and I'm in quotes there, the potentially positive choices were moving a lot more quickly than the anxiety choices. So we slowed it down even further. And we talked about this the other day, but by slowing it down, they recognized that there were choices there for excitement and adventure. And there were choices there for anxiety. So they recognized that their whole life, they had pretty frequently or pretty routinely chosen anxiety. They didn't even realize they were choosing. But they realized that they kept throughout their life choosing anxiety. And as a result of recognizing that choice, they recognized, oh my gosh, all my life, these other choices, these other options have been available to me, and I didn't take advantage of them. I chose anxiety. And they got to recognize the impact of that. And by recognizing the impact of that, while it was painful, that awareness, the extremity of that awareness, gave them a deeper motivation to choose differently. And so when we look at the idea of, or the mechanism of worry, for instance, it's important to recognize what's the cost of that. So in this case, this person was experiencing worry over something, that it was almost like a kind of an obsessive thinking pattern about something, just worrying it, not just worrying about it, but, to worry something, to pick at something for an extended periods of time. And what they recognized is that this pattern of worry consumed about 25% of their waking life. Just let that sink in for a second. 25% of their life was consumed with worry about this thing that they could have just made another choice about, to say, I take care of it when I need to take care of it. But that choice hadn't been present for them until they slowed things down enough to recognize, oh, I'm choosing to put my attention there. So the question that I have for you is, what are you choosing to put your attention on that ends you up in this loop, this recurrent pattern that sucks your energy, that diverts your attention from being present, from being in relationship, from being engaged in life? What do you put your attention on that sucks the life out of your experience? And how can you find the place where you get to choose, like recognize the cost of it? So this person recognized that, they couldn't be present with other people because this concern was always there. Hello, Anchal. Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here with us. We're talking about existential choices. So Rosalind says, the slowing down sounds like widening the space between the thought and the action or reaction. I think that's a great way to think about it. So Rosalind says, this white space, blank space, requires awareness, no judgment. Does this space require the heart to be activated that changes the beliefs that are influenced by thoughts? So that's a really good question. Does the space require the heart to be activated that changes the beliefs that are influenced by thoughts? Well, I think what happens is that in order to get the deep motivation for change, the deep support for change, the heart gets engaged in recognizing the cost, that there's an emotional reaction like, oh my gosh, I have spent 25% of my life wasting energy that I could have been putting toward being in relationship, being present. And the thing is, we're talking about this in the context of worry. We can also look at any habit, any pattern. We can bring it to how we eat, or how we maybe indulge in substances that we are not happy about indulging in. So I had one person who was wanting to stop or cut down on smoking. and they were vaping a lot. And I said, okay, well, just for starters, you can vape if that's what, if that's what you want to do, and choose it. Like when you're going to vape, really, really be present to it. Really allow yourself to enjoy it, to experience it. Don't just do it as a reflex habit. If you're going to do it, do it. And notice, do I stop for a second, slow down, make that space, and then ask yourself, do I want this right now? And if you do, great. Allow yourself to really, really enjoy it. And it was so fascinating because it used to be that they sucked on this vape like a pacifier pretty much all the time. And they, just by knowing that they could, not resisting the desire and being present to really enjoying it, they cut down their vaping by like 80%. And when they did, they enjoyed it. How cool is that? So Gia says, I think, who knows anxiety better than me? Gia, well, I think you're learning other options too. So Gia says, but yes, slowing down, meditation goes being present in itself is healing. Slowing down brings faith, trust in self, space to let things happen as they are, though it seems impossible while going through it. Slow down, even while brushing your teeth, or while walking, or while doing anything. Absolutely. I had to start from scratch to stay present. You make such a good point, Gia. It seems like it would be counterintuitive that if we want to get more done, if we want to be more productive, to slow down. But a lot of times it's the rushing around in our minds that keeps us distracted, which makes things take longer. And in this case, slowing down to be present, slowing down to notice what we're thinking, slowing down to give ourselves the opportunity to make a choice. All those things make a big difference. Isabel says, I'm working on that, watching where I spend my thoughts and time. Exactly. When we look at, wow, here's that thought pattern again. Worry about money, even. A lot of people worry about money, thinking somehow that all that worry is going to make a difference. And if you slow that down, the choice point, the point at which we start worrying, if we slow it down, just say, is that what I want to choose in this moment? Is there another way that I could choose to be thinking in this moment? What choice will shift my state of being? How am I investing my time? And how is it impacting my existence? People think if they worry that they'll make better choices. But the truth is, when we worry, we get ourselves into a stress state, and all these chemical sets are moving around in our body and being, and they're fight or flight kind of elevation when we get anxious. And what happens is literally our focus narrows. So we don't get to see the bigger picture, which means that we don't get to see all the possibilities that might provide us with better solutions for things. So ironically, when our minds are racing and we're thinking, oh my gosh, all this panic, the thing to do is to slow down. And one of the vehicles for me in that is to be curious, to ask questions. So Gia says, slowing down to me means only in case of my anxious mind. We become productive, receptive, positive in the process of being present through slowing down. But in outside world, we've been taught and trained to keep racing. Exactly. We have been taught to and trained to keep racing. And the thing is that that's often producing exactly the opposite of the result we're looking for. And so slowing down, taking a step back, regrouping, recognizing, well, what's the choice I just made? What choice would be a better choice to make? What would be an empowering choice? What would serve me in this moment? You know, but the racing thoughts produce more racing thoughts. And so the idea here is to, maybe you can't do it in that moment, but maybe at a later time when you're not in the midst of that cycle, you can step back, take a breath, and look at, well, what was the dynamic? What's available to me there? So anyway, that's it for this morning. So much love to you guys. I am Mira Rubin, and this is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I encourage you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, Enlightened World Living, EWN One with the Earth. Gia says, it's helped me to get my life back. At least I feel so much more productive and happier in my 43rd than ever. You are so welcome. And I'm so glad to hear that, Gia. And it's such a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be with you guys and to be engaged in these conversations. April, welcome, welcome. So good to have you joining us. I look forward to seeing you all again really, really soon. And until then, lots and lots of love.